Be seated, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see all of you again. We're ready to resume jury selection. Mr. Boring, you can proceed, I believe, with Juror 6.
Thank you. Good morning. All right, so we'll start with a little bit about your background that we have. You work as a lube tech, correct? Okay. And how long have you worked in that field?
2 years.
I'm sorry, how long?
2 years.
2 years, okay. And have you ever worked in any other field than that, or is that
I
mainly?
work for a diesel company
Okay.
and for Chick-fil-A.
Okay. And with the diesel company, what'd you do?
Pretty much like an assistant mechanic.
Okay. Okay. You didn't answer too many questions, so this shouldn't take long. You are familiar with messaging. You use text messages, obviously, but you also do some type of messaging on your phone with other applications. Okay. What types of applications do you use?
Messenger, Instagram, Snapchat, about it.
Okay. Okay. And going through those, let me go through that list again. Just let me know if you're familiar with these. Are you familiar with YouTube? Okay. And what do you use that for?
Video.
As far as Craigslist, you're familiar with Craigslist? Okay. And do you ever use that? Okay. And just, I can see you shaking your head, but the court reporter's got to take down a verbal response, okay? Sorry about that. So you said you are familiar with Craigslist or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. How about Twitter? Do you use Twitter?
Yes, sir.
You know what it is, though. Okay. Same thing with Reddit. Are you familiar with Reddit? Kik, K-I-K?
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you familiar with Kik?
Friends.
What's that?
Friends.
Friends? Okay. And do you use that one? How about Backpage?
No.
Whisper?
No.
Scout?
No.
And you already said Snapchat. You use that. I believe you told us that you watch legal TV shows sometimes, either fictional, non-fictional. Tell me what you particularly like to watch, or you do watch.
First 48, House,
Okay.
NCIS.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Gotcha. I think you also told us that you followed a criminal case before, either in the news or watched it in a courtroom or on TV.
The OJ. That's about it.
Okay. All right. I believe you've had the opportunity to care for somebody who's been disabled or sick or something like that.
My grandma, my grandpa.
Okay. I believe you've had a bad experience with law enforcement before. Okay. Tell me a little about that.
It was me and two other buddies.
Mm-hmm.
We were at the truck meet. Next thing we know, we got like 8 cops coming down the spur.
Mm-hmm.
They're going towards the mall. Apparently, some Mexicans stabbed each other or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we wanted to be noted, so we rode over there. Well, then we got spotlight on us,
Mm-hmm.
and the people who they were looking for were in a single cab Chevrolet. We were in a single cab Chevrolet. So they pulled us over. I looked behind me, and there's 8 cops behind us, and I thought there was only one. And then they put us on the ground. We're trying to explain what happened, and it's just crazy. That's all I want to say about that.
Okay. And was this something we all actually arrested in this, or was once they got into it and figured out what was going on?
Once they got into it about 30 minutes later, went
Uh-huh.
back and forth and back and forth. They
Right.
finally realized we weren't legal.
Okay. So kind of you're being nosy and then you end up in a mess. Okay. All right. I believe you stated you've known somebody who's been arrested before. Okay. Tell me about that.
Like 3 or 4 people that work with us,
Mm-hmm.
DUIs. A buddy of mine that was arrested for fraud. Another one that was arrested for battery.
Okay.
And then one that some Redford Cylinder. I know a lot of people.
Okay. Now, do you know enough about the ones that you've told us to know enough about their cases to have an opinion as to whether they were treated fairly or not?
Maybe one or two of them.
One or two of them were treated fairly, and then the other ones were not?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not sure. Okay. I believe you stated that you've had to give a statement to the police before? Okay, tell me about that.
It was going on with my uncle. He was sending like threats to us and all,
Okay.
so we had to go to court.
Okay. All right. And I believe you said that you've known somebody who's been in a relationship or dated from meeting somebody online. Okay, tell me about that.
So one of my buddies, he said he was married, but he was just trying to, I guess, and he told me about it. He
Okay.
wanted me to do it. I'm not gonna do
Okay. So he was married, but he said he was going to go online and meet women?
it. Yeah,
Okay. Do you know if he ever met any?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And do you, I don't be too nosy, I'm going to ask one more question. Do you know what site or what he used to do that? Or what messaging service or anything? Okay.
I think it was me.
Okay. Okay. You've actually contested a ticket before?
I actually have one that I'm trying to do now.
Okay. And what, just generally, obviously, is it just a ticket? What was the driving offense?
Failure to maintain lanes and seatbelt.
Okay. Okay, I think you've answered some other stuff about kids in cars and opinions and things like that. So I'm going to hold off on talking to you about those things until we do it in private. Other than that, what do you like to do in your free time if you have any? What type of hobbies?
Pretty much just working on my truck.
Working on a truck, okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Good morning. I'm going to call you Mr. W, if that's okay. Did you grow up here? Did you grow up here in Glenn County? You went to high school here? When did you finish high school?
I didn't.
Okay. How far did you go?
12.
You left here in your senior year? Okay. And you indicated some work history with a diesel company and Chick-fil-A. Was that while you were still in school?
No, that was when the Chick-fil-A was when I was in school,
Okay.
and then I quit the diesel company.
All right, and you've been working with Express for 2 years.
About a year, I worked at another company.
Okay. All right, you indicated some use of social media. In particular, you said you use Messenger, Facebook Messenger.
Yes, sir.
Yeah? Okay. Do you post very much on Facebook?
Yeah, somewhat.
What kind of things do you post?
Pretty much just videos.
Videos?
Yeah.
Where do you get the videos that you...
They just come on the feed. I'll share them.
Okay. All right, so videos come to you through Facebook, and sometimes you open them, watch them, like them, and then you just repost them. Okay. All right. Is that the primary thing that you use Facebook for?
Yeah. 'Cause I don't get on it much other than that. Everything I've seen, I've already seen before.
Okay. All right. What kind of videos are we talking about?
Pretty much just truck videos.
All right. Trucks are kind of your thing, right? All right. Did you drive a truck to the courthouse this morning? Oh, yeah. All right. What kind of truck?
Single cab, Chevy.
All right. You also use Instagram and Snapchat. All right, how often do you use those?
I get on it probably 5 or 6 times a day.
5 or 6 times a day? Both of them? Okay. And what kind of things do you post, or do you ever?
I don't really ever post anything on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really post on Instagram.
All right. You just scroll through and look at people's pictures. Right.
Yes, sir.
Do you ever like them?
Yep.
Okay. Do you ever comment, "Hey, nice wheels"?
Not all the time.
Okay. What about Snapchat?
I use that probably all day.
All right. What do you mean?
They send me pictures and I'll send them back. I have a bunch of friends on there.
All right. All right. We take our morning break at whenever the judge lets us do that. Are you going to go back and check your phone to see what anybody sent you on Snapchat?
Probably not. That's too long of a walk.
To,
Too many stairs.
oh, it's in your car or in your truck.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all, because you couldn't bring your phone into the courthouse.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If it were here, you'd check it during the break.
Well, I'll be on it right now.
All right. You ever date online? You ever find girls to date online? No. All right. But you said you had a friend who indicated that.
Yeah, he was trying to get rid of that one. That's kind of
I know it probably sounds like in your head. It probably sounds like you are yelling.
okay.
But your voice is very soft. If you could speak up just a tad, it'll help us.
All right.
Sorry about that. And all right, so you said you have a friend who is married, but he's meeting women online.
Yes, sir.
But you don't know what.
I don't keep up with his personal life.
Okay. He just said this is something he shared with you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I'm assuming that he shared with you that he's doing this just for hookups or something like
Yeah,
that?
Just flirt and all.
To flirt?
Yeah.
All right. Is this somebody that you work with?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not married and you don't have any children.
No.
Okay. All right. The incident that you were telling us about regarding the mess that you got into at the mall, you did say it was at the mall, right? How long ago was this?
A month and a half ago.
Oh, so this is pretty recent.
Yeah.
Okay. You're with some buddies in your trucks. You see a bunch of lights. Obviously, some law enforcement. You see a bunch of lights.
Yeah.
Y'all want to check it out.
Yeah.
So you head that direction.
Yeah.
What I missed is how do we go from you going over there just to see what's going on to being taken down?
The people who were there around it when it was happening, because the truck was riding around,
Okay.
when we rode over there, they said they put the spotlight on us, and the cop said, yeah, those people said that y'all were doing it. That was the truck. So that's when they started following us and pulled us over.
Okay. So the police pulled you over, and was it like a felony type takedown where guns were drawn and everything?
Yeah. And guns pointed at us and everything.
Okay. Did they put you on the ground on your stomach?
I mean, they did everything right for what they had to do,
Right.
but I didn't feel I should have been able to kind of tell my story
Okay.
before they'd done all that. But
All right. So the part that I'm missing is it was your understanding that somebody told the police it was those guys, or it was the guys in that truck.
And after we done told our situation and all,
Hmm.
they were talking to us.
Okay. And they told you that's the information, that somebody had told them that it was y'all's truck.
They were looking for Mexicans.
Okay. Do you have any Mexicans with you?
A couple of them look like Mexicans.
Okay. All right, so at the end of the day, somebody gave the police bad information that they followed up on, which ended up in y'all being taken down. Okay. All right, you've had several friends that were arrested. You said for fraud, one for battery, and one for selling drugs. Are these people that you work with?
Just one of them.
Okay. Have you followed their cases at all? Okay. Are any of them in jail right now? All right. Like out on bond, pending their cases. Okay. All right. You currently have a citation that you're contesting. Is that here in Glenn County? So, you have a right to remain silent. You don't have to talk about that, but is that something you can tell us about?
I was turning on the red light. There's a cop sitting at this red light. I'm coming this light. I come by and he makes a U-turn. I know he's coming over. I'm right there in the house. So I go in and get over. And he didn't turn on the lights. Jack is pulling that home. And he turns the lights on.
Okay. Because you got over thinking that you were going to be pulled over.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You intentionally changed lanes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you use a signal?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell him that?
He didn't want to listen to me.
Okay.
I tried to explain to him, and he said he'll be back. And he came back with a ticket.
All right. So have you got a court date coming up for that?
When I sent it back, that was like a year ago, and I haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You told us that you'd heard public service announcements or stories about not leaving animals in cars.
Yes, sir.
Was that something you saw online?
Yes, sir.
Was. Did you see a video?
Well, I seen a video of I guess a football player sitting in a car or something. And it only happens for like 10 or 15 minutes, and he had to get out.
Okay. Where'd you see that?
I think that was on Facebook.
Somebody you knew posted that?
Yeah.
When'd you see this video?
Like 6 months ago.
Okay. I may have written this down incorrectly. I've got that you answered in the affirmative that you were familiar with a child that falls asleep easily in a car seat, I was gonna say, you don't have, unless you've got a younger brother or sister, you don't have kids.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, we'll follow up with a couple of other matters with you in just a little bit, okay? Thank you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay. Let's see. You are retired from a security company you worked for years, correct? Okay. Did you ever work in any profession other than that, or has that been pretty much your whole professional career?
That was pretty much it. I was in high school and telephone operator.
A high school what? I'm sorry?
Telephone operator.
Okay. All right. So you know somebody in the military, correct?
My two brothers and brothers-in-law, two brothers-in-law, were all military.
Okay. In what branches?
Army.
Army. Okay. All right. All right. I think you have 4 grandchildren, correct? Are they all local?
Two are.
Okay.
Two live in Seattle.
Oh, wow. How often do you get to see them?
2 to 3 times a year. They just spent 2 weeks with me.
Okay. Like over the summer?
Yeah.
That's great. I used to go to my grandparents' house up in Franklin, North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and would spend a couple of weeks each summer.
Yeah. That's great to look forward to. And I'll be doing that.
Oh, wow. And then after a couple of weeks of fun, you get to send them back, right? Yes. All right. All right. You also know somebody that's had some type of legal training or worked in the legal field or something? Okay. Can you think of anybody specifically now, like attorneys or paralegals or anything?
My divorce lawyer from 1989.
Okay. Do you still keep in touch with him, or?
We're friends on Facebook.
Okay. All right.
The lawyer that handled the, I guess it was I don't know if you would call it,
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. Okay. Well, it seems like he's been a great deal of years, so. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that about your son. How old was he when this happened?
25.
Okay.
It's been 20 years.
Yes, ma'am. I believe you've known some people who are in the medical profession as well. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Seems like your roots run pretty deep here. You also know somebody that's in IT or works with computers and technology?
My both sons-in-law and my 2 daughters.
Okay. Now, you have been on either a grand jury or a jury before, correct?
Yes.
Okay, which one?
I don't know the lingo, and I
Okay.
can't remember.
Okay.
One was had to do with drugs.
Okay. And when that happened, was it like this? Did you get selected for a jury, then sit in the box and hear witnesses from both sides?
Yes.
Okay. And was there another one that you sat on too?
Yes, and it was a lawsuit, a patient against the hospital.
Okay. And was that the same thing, like you were selected and heard from both sides? Okay. Well, let's talk. I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
No, go ahead.
There might have been more, but over the years I forgot.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's.
Seems like I'm here every year.
Well, you've been here a while, so yeah. Okay, so the first one, that would have been a criminal case with the drugs involved. And without telling me your verdict, were you as a jury able to reach a verdict in the case?
I was.
Okay.
I mean, it was pretty obvious.
Okay. And were you the foreperson?
No.
Okay. All right. In the, I guess what we would call a civil lawsuit, where somebody's suing somebody else, were you able as a jury to reach a verdict in that case?
Yes.
And were you the foreperson in that case?
No.
Now, you attend church or another religious institution here?
I'm not a backslider, but yes, I'm an avid Catholic.
Okay. And what'd you say, you're not a what?
Every Sunday.
I'm sorry?
I'm there. I don't make it every Sunday, or,
Yes.
mass, but I'm there as often as I can be, and a lot because of the grandchildren.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And you don't use cell phones?
Nope.
Okay. Have you ever owned one, even like a flip phone or anything, or do you just stick with the landline? I'm sorry?
I had a company phone when I worked,
Okay.
but I turned it in when I retired.
Okay. And how long ago did you retire?
January 2012.
Okay. So now you just use the phone in your house, landline. Okay. Okay.
I get fussed at, but
You get fussed at? Who fussed?
kids.
Because, well, maybe that's a good thing. You can't be, you can act that, hey, I'm sorry you couldn't get in touch with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of convenient. When you have cell phones, it's a little harder to give that excuse.
Well, I guess I'm a dinosaur, so.
Well, there have been several people that have chosen that same path, so that we've had in here. I think you've known somebody. Now, do you use computers and go on the internet and stuff? Okay. Now, in doing that, I think you said that you've known somebody, or you've talked to somebody on the internet that you haven't met before, or just engaged in some kind of discussion or something like that.
Yes, my ex-husband's college, friends.
Okay.
We have introduced themselves.
Mhm.
You almost every day if you use Facebook,
Mhm.
get a new friend that you don't know.
Mhm.
He contacts, your friends.
Right. Kind of friends of friends.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you stated that you posted an opinion online before, or given an opinion or responded to
I
something.
have. I can't pinpoint it, but
Okay. Would that be like the BrunswickNews.com, or would it be something like Facebook? Somebody posted something and you responded to it, or?
yes.
Okay.
Comment.
Now you watch some legal TV shows, correct? Okay. What do you watch?
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods. Okay. It's got Magnum PI, right?
I love Tom Selleck.
Yeah. I just know him as Magnum PI. So, all right. So Blue Bloods. Anything else? Or is that pretty much it? You ever watch any of the talk shows or anything like that?
Yeah, occasionally.
Okay. And which ones do you watch?
Ellen DeGeneres,
Okay.
Jim Cabot, believe it or not, is back on.
Okay. All right.
Like all the oldies.
Yes, ma'am. And you volunteered with children before?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Well, Cub Scouts,
Mm-hmm.
Girl Friendlies,
Mm-hmm.
Vacation Bible School.
You've also worked in a paying capacity with kids. Is that back when you were working with the high school?
Well, when my children were little, I was a substitute teacher
Okay.
at St. Francis.
Okay.
And then at Glen Academy,
Mhm.
and at Horace Millette Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to Virginia, and I worked in a middle school there.
Okay.
As a substitute.
Okay. Glen Academy. Is that the school like right down the street?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You've also had the opportunity to take care of somebody who's either been very sick or disabled or something of that nature. Tell me about that.
My parents.
Okay. Okay. Now you've actually had a good experience with law enforcement at some point?
I had a bad.
Okay. And you've known somebody who's been arrested before,
Yes, I did.
like all of us. So tell me about that.
My son, unfortunately.
I'm sorry to hear about that. What generally, if you don't mind me asking, some of your?
Drugs and alcohol.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm happy to say he's a rehabilitated
That's great.
alcoholic.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear he's doing better. Yes. I can tell you're a devout Catholic. You just,
Yes, yeah.
all right. And you've actually lived in Cobb County before?
Pardon me?
You've lived in Cobb County before, or do you know somebody who's lived in? I'm sorry. Do you have family who lives there?
My daughter lived in Tyrone, which is near Atlanta, and I'm not really sure that,
Okay, yes, okay, Tyrone is in Fayette County.
yeah.
Which is,
Okay.
it's south of the city, kind of.
Okay, now.
But probably to y'all here, it's all the same place, right? It's Atlanta, traffic, mess. Okay. All right. Really don't have a whole lot else. When you have free time, what do you like to do in your free time?
I like to cook and sew.
Okay.
Watch TV. I recently, by the way,
Oh, okay.
had an opportunity to experience virtual reality.
Virtual reality. How'd you do that?
My son-in-law, and I gotta say, you should all try it. It was great.
What do? You like put on the goggles and it looks like you're somewhere else?
Yep.
Okay. And where were you virtually at when you put on the goggles? Where'd you go? Like the moon or something? Or
In a Vincent Van Gogh painting.
really?
I did a rocket with John Glenn.
Uh-huh.
Sitting right here by me. Give thumbs up.
And where did you do that?
At my son-in-law's house.
Okay. So he had the equipment.
My daughter's house, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so you've mentioned Facebook and that you get friend requests. You're friends with your former divorce lawyer and another lawyer. How often are you using Facebook?
Every day.
Okay. What is the, what do you use it primarily for?
I communicate with my family and friends and read posts and comment.
Okay. Are you posting pictures yourself?
Most of the family, I'm family oriented.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of posting. I do a lot of just communicating with family and friends.
All right.
My school friends.
All right. And you, I think you said you read articles?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever watch videos?
Yes.
All right, do you ever repost any videos or articles that come to you?
I have.
In other words, you share them.
I have.
All right. What kind of subject matters are you usually reading about or watching videos about?
It's kind of hard. Like funny happenings, any family, grandchildren. If there's something bad that comes onto my feed, I like to just unfollow that. I don't
Okay.
want that to be on my page. Just interesting articles.
Okay. And that is, that's the only real social media that you use? Facebook?
Well, I do FaceTime
Okay.
to talk to the children.
Okay.
My children and my grandchildren.
The ones that live in Tyrone?
Well, they're in Seattle.
Oh. All right.
And Messenger.
All right. And you have, let me ask this, do you want to serve on this jury?
I prefer not to have to do jury duty.
Okay.
It makes me uncomfortable, but, I mean, it is our duty, so.
Okay.
you know.
Did you know that you could have requested not to serve?
Yes, I just turned in an affidavit this morning
Okay.
requesting, since I'm 70.
Okay.
yes, not to have to do jury duty.
All right. You're making that request at this time.
I'm sorry?
You're making that request at this time, not to have to serve.
I thought I had done it last year with Miss, or no, before Miss Jamsky
Uh-huh.
retired, and she said she would take care of it, but evidently we did, it dropped through the crack. I don't remember filling out a piece of paper. So I did this year,
Okay.
or today, just this morning.
Who did you give that request to?
The nice lady that's been kind of guiding us around, the
Right.
blonde.
She's.
I'm sorry, I don't know her.
That's okay. She is very nice.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll look into that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I always wait to see who's the first one that's going to mention Blue Bloods, so because that's my show.
I'm sorry.
Blue Bloods.
Yeah, I've seen every episode 4 times.
Yeah. They run a marathon one night a week, and you can watch like 4 episodes in a row. The thing about that show, the Donnie Wahlberg character, he kills somebody every episode. Have you ever noticed that? I mean, he shoots somebody every week. I just don't know how that's possible.
I'm just kind of concentrating on Mr. South.
Right. That'll just be all of our little secret, okay?
I tried to friend him on Facebook.
Gosh, I'm gonna end on the high note right there, Judge. Thank you.
I think that's wise, indeed. Please.
If I may, Judge, just follow up with one more question with juror number 7. So you're telling us right now you want to be excused from this jury service.
I would appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Moving right along. Juror number 8. You work for International Auto Processing, is that correct? Okay. How long have you worked in that field?
About 6 years.
Okay. And other than that, what other fields have you worked in your professional career?
I spent 25 years as a press operator.
Okay. I need to ask, do you even read the news now? You're so tired from looking at it?
Not very much anymore.
Yeah. Did you read it then while you were working on it?
I did.
Okay. So you actually operated the printing presses?
Yes, sir.
All right. And have you ever worked in any other field other than that and what you're doing now? Okay. Okay. Let's see here. You know somebody who's been in the military before?
My father and mom.
Okay. In what branches? Or Army? Okay. You originally from Brunswick?
Yes, sir.
All right. You also know some people who are in the medical field?
My mother was a nurse at the hospital for 37 years.
Okay. And you are a member or attend a church or another religious institution?
Family life.
Family life? Okay. All right. And you, much like juror number 7, you don't do texting and stuff like that. Okay. Now, do you actually have a cell phone?
I do have stuff on. I don't get on none of the programs, what do you call them?
Yeah. You don't get on the phone applications and do all that mess. Okay.
Strictly phone.
Strictly phone. Okay. So, you use a computer sometimes?
No, sir.
Don't use a computer? Okay. So obviously you're not messing with social media and all that stuff. Okay. All right. You do watch some legal TV shows or something of that nature?
Yes. I was Law and Order, Criminal Minds, NCIS.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes, sir. Do you watch any of the legal talk shows or anything like that?
I have seen Nancy Grace 3 times, just passed through the channels.
Mhm.
I never really sit down and listen or watch them.
Okay. All right. Now, you know somebody who's been arrested before, correct?
Both my brothers DUI.
Okay.
My nephew was arrested for gang-related activities.
Oh. Was that here in Brunswick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. About how long ago was it, if you remember?
He was arrested probably about 12 years ago.
Okay. And do you know enough about it to have an opinion as to whether he was treated fairly or not?
Well, he was convicted and he went to prison.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's fair trial.
Okay. All right. I believe you say you've known somebody who's been a victim of a homicide before.
Well, it was him. He was killed in prison.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the same thing, and I'm sorry to hear that. Do you remember where he was at, what prison he was at?
It's somewhere in North Georgia. I don't remember which one it was.
Do you know, did they actually prosecute the person who did it? Or do you remember?
I know what fact, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Now, obviously, you having kids, you transported children before to school and daycare and things like that? Okay. And you've got, is it 2 granddaughters?
2 granddaughters, one 8 and one's 19.
19 months, okay. And are they local?
Yes, sir, they are.
Okay. Do you have to take care of the grandkids?
With my 8-year-old, she stayed with me.
Okay.
And the other one, I just pick her up occasionally, go by and visit.
Okay.
Still, right now, she's not really used to me.
Yeah.
I got a beard now I used to have, and she kind of looks at me strange.
Wondering who you are?
I'm not around her as much as I am my other one.
Right. Okay. All right. Now you've been in a Hyundai Tucson before or driven one before?
Except, well, we drive a lot of cars I work at.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's about it, though.
Okay.
Variety of different cars.
Yes, sir. All right. I think all the other questions that we had to ask, or I was going to follow up on, we'll talk about individually. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning. Your 8-year-old, you said, lives with you? Your 8-year-old granddaughter lives with you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do either of her parents live with you as well?
From my daughter.
All right. Do you have a well? How long has this granddaughter lived with you? Her whole life?
Yes, sir. Ever since she was born.
All right. Do you or have you ever been responsible for taking her anywhere, transporting her in a car with a car seat?
Yes, sir. But everywhere I go, she goes. She's the grand, you know, she's the mother of the day.
Okay.
She follows me everywhere I go. She wants to ride too. So I've been. She's been in car seat a lot.
All right. So you've always kept a car seat in your car
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
until she was
Yeah. Now she's in the
out of it.
booster seat.
Now she's what?
She's in the booster seat now.
Okay. She's small for her age.
About average, but she's up sitting there up higher so she can see out.
Okay. When she was younger, did you take her to daycare in the morning?
Yes, I have.
All right. Did you take her on the way to work?
Yes, I have.
All right.
My off days. When days I'm off, I take her. And
But-
you know, drop off.
The days you're off, you take her.
Yeah, days I'm off of work,
All right.
I'll take her. Usually.
How many days a week would you take her?
One or two.
Who would take her on the days that you?
My mother.
Her mother would. How far did you have to take her?
3 or 4 miles.
A couple miles?
Yes, sir.
Right. And was it always the exact same route, same time of day, so forth?
So pretty much.
Okay. Did you ever have any deviation? Did you ever stop for coffee or breakfast?
Not taking daycare. But anywhere I went, normally she would want to ride with me. So
Mhm.
I just let her ride.
What part of the county do you live in?
Pine Ridge, down around Ballard, ballpark area, behind, around Pumpkin Patch.
Okay. All right, you indicated that you had some familiarity with hearing public service announcements, such as the Look Again campaign, reminding parents to double check their car for children. When would you have been exposed to?
I just seen them during commercial, watching TV, come across on commercial on TV.
Okay. Is this something recent, or that you've been exposed to over a period of time?
Over a period of time.
Have you noticed that it's seasonal, that you hear those public service announcements during warm weather months?
I can't recall what we did know.
Okay. You indicated you were familiar with similar public service announcements regarding not to leave an animal in a car
Yes, sir, I seen it on TV too.
on TV. You indicated that you have previously contested traffic citation.
No, sir.
Did not? Okay. All right. Did you indicate that you or your spouse had previously had to hire an attorney?
Yes, I did. Before I divorced from her.
Okay. How long ago was that?
About 20 years ago.
All right. And I don't recall, did you indicate, was that a contested divorce?
No, sir, not really.
Okay. Y'all worked it out, but you still had to have lawyers to kind of do the paperwork and go through the motions. Okay. That's the only time you've had to hire a lawyer.
Yes, sir. One other time, I guess, I had bankruptcy
Okay.
17 years ago.
All right, Mr. C, we'll ask you a couple of other things in private, okay? Thank you. Good morning. All right, you are retired from the pulp mill, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yes, sir.
can I make a correction? The other day, you asked
Absolutely.
if anyone had ever lived in Cobb County. Well, I knew that I lived in Atlanta for a year.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know it was Cobb County, so when I got home, I asked my wife, and she says, yeah, Marietta, that's Cobb County. I said, okay, so I'll correct it.
Yep, that's the center of Cobb County. You're exactly right. You couldn't be any more Cobb County than Marietta.
Let me say, for as much as I've gone to Atlanta, I had 2 kids going to school there.
Yes, sir.
And wherever I went in Atlanta, I didn't know where I was at. I was watching traffic. So, yeah.
It's kind of like a vortex. Yeah.
Right, anyway, I did live in Cobb County.
Okay, great. All right. And so, just kind of we'll go with that. And do you still have family there in Cobb County?
And not in Cobb. My son lives in Houston,
Yes.
and he works over by, what is it, where the Georgia University of Georgia.
Okay. Yeah. Up in Athens.
Yeah, around Athens area.
All right. Okay. So, going back to your work, how long did you work with the pulp mill?
24 years.
Okay. And was that most of your professional career, or did you do something else as well?
No, sir, I used to be in retail. That's how I was in Cobb County.
Okay.
I started out with Grant Company in around 69, and no more than that, about 68, 67. And I was with W.T. Grant, and I don't know if you're familiar with them, but of course they went bankrupt.
Right.
And that's how I ended up in Cobb County. I went with Treasury Stores
Okay.
there. And I left Treasury after a year. A group of us formed our own Ben Franklin group. And that's how I ended up down here.
Okay. And so, since you've been with the mill, what has been what jobs have you held there, or has it been the same one consistently over the time?
No, I like that. I enjoy doing different parts of the mill. Worked in machine rooms. I worked in maintenance. Maintenance foreman. Set up for a year. Decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Went back hourly. Worked out in the wood yard.
Okay. All right. And your wife is retired?
Yes.
And what type of work is she retired
She
from?
worked, she retired from the gas company,
Okay.
Atlanta Gas Line.
And what did she do there?
She was office AO, office assistant. Well, they classified that.
Okay. Now, during your roles there with the mill, and I guess before, you've had the opportunity to supervise people.
Not so much at the mill, other than when I would set up supervisory capacity for the times that I did it.
Yes.
But you didn't have a hiring and firing capacity or whatsoever. You had a supervisory capacity to make sure things get done on.
Right. Okay. And with the prior jobs before that, did you have those duties?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now, you've known people who've been in law enforcement or people that are in law enforcement?
Yeah.
Okay. And just tell me a little about that. Are these like friends or people you just know from around here? Or?
My best friend, my fishing partner for the last going on 20 years, is a retired highway patrol captain.
Okay.
We live across the street from each other.
Yes, sir.
We fish together. I know Robbie Jump, but he just happens to live next door to me.
Okay.
And then, of course, I know his dad because he'll be over there and I'll say hello, and that's about it. It's not a social thing.
Okay. It's not like y'all are so tight that you wouldn't be, I mean, obviously this case doesn't involve anybody from Glenn County, but those relationships, I assume, would in no way affect your ability to be fair to both sides in this case, correct?
No, sir. I can set aside.
Okay. You also know people who've served in the military, correct?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about that.
So my father-in-law, who's 95 and kicking today and doing well, World War II.
That's great.
I have a brother that had served 20 years active, 8 years reserve in the United States Marine Corps.
Wow.
And I served 4 years United States Navy.
We appreciate your service, sir.
Thank you.
Well, in addition to serving the country, you've served the community and being on juries before, correct?
Yes.
All right. How many juries have you been on?
You know,
As best you remember.
I think 2.
Okay. There's at least 2 that stick out in your mind?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about those. First one. Were they criminal, civil, one of each, or both one or the
Both
other?
of them were civil, and I really can only remember one of them.
Okay.
What the case was about.
And was it here in Glenn County?
Yes, sir, but it's probably 20 years ago.
Okay. And as far as you remember, were you as a jury, was the jury able to reach a verdict?
Yes.
Okay. And were you the foreperson?
No.
And on the second one, do you remember enough about it to remember if you even reached a verdict?
Oh, I don't. Yeah, no, I'm sure we did, but because I don't remember anything going on after that. But I don't even remember what it was about.
Okay. All right. Now, you attend a church or a local religious institution? Tell me about that.
I attend St. Francis.
Yes, sir. All right. And you are much like jurors 7 and 8. You don't do the whole texting stuff, correct?
No, sir, I still have a flip phone.
All right. Does it have internet access at all? Even?
No.
All right. And as far as social media, do you use social media at all?
We have a laptop at home.
Okay.
As far as social media goes, my wife does Facebook with her children and what have you. I don't use it.
Okay. Has she tried to get you to get a Facebook page?
No, I'm not interested. I use the computer a lot, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't social media.
Yeah. My dad didn't do that for the longest, and now he does, and he's always on there too. Like it's funny because now he's into it and posts pictures of the kids and things like that. But my mother though, she's never gotten a page. I'm just interested. Weird. Anyway, so all those social media things that I talked about. Have you heard? Let me go through that list. Have you heard of YouTube?
YouTube, like I said, I use
Yeah.
the computer a lot.
Yes, sir.
You asked if I use YouTube the other day, and I said, no, I don't, but I got to thinking about it. If I'm working on my lawnmower or something, I say, dadgum, what do you need to do to get this right? I'll go to YouTube and pull up a work video.
Yes.
That's how I use YouTube.
Yeah, so if you want to look for something, learn how to do something,
Right.
then you go to YouTube. Okay. All right. How about Instagram?
No.
Okay. Craigslist. You ever bought anything off
I
Craigslist?
bought a boat out of Atlanta. off of Craigslist.
All right.
No fishing boat.
Okay. Twitter?
No.
Okay. Reddit?
Never heard of it.
Kick?
Never heard of that till here.
Okay. Backpage?
No.
Whisper?
No.
Scout?
No.
Snapchat?
I know about Snapchat, but I've never used it or.
Okay. All right. I believe you stated that you have watched or listened to some type of like legal documentary, some legal case, either. Go ahead.
I'm going to go back to the O.J. Simpson trial and the Peterson trial. That thing about the only legal things I've ever involved in on TV.
Okay. All right. And when you said that you'd also followed a criminal case before in the media, was that the same type of things? Now, obviously, with kids and things like that, you volunteered with kids before?
I've coached Little League baseball, and and you get involved in a soccer when your kids are growing up.
Yes, sir.
That's about it.
Okay. I believe you've had the opportunity to care for somebody who's been sick or disabled.
Mother, she had a stroke and hung on for 9 years, and that was rough. But
Yes, sir. Okay. I believe you stated that you've had to give a statement to the police before. Was that like a car accident, a break-in, or?
I had fishing rods stolen out of my garage.
Okay.
My beer refrigerator robbed out of my garage.
I assume that was a felony arrest. That should have been a felony arrest.
A felony arrest.
Yes.
That's that sort of thing. That's about it.
Okay. Did they also take the beer in the refrigerator?
Well, that's where it was. I had a cold case of Budweiser, and they took it.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes, and I was too. Been a number of years ago.
All right. You have actually, I believe that somebody you know has experienced the sudden death of a child.
I was going to go back, and the recent thing was, like I said, I lived next door to Robbie Jump,
Yes.
and I attended that service like many other people did.
Okay.
The youngin's name was Evan.
Yes, sir. Okay. All right. I really don't have anything else. What do you like to do in your free time? What are hobbies? It sounds like you like to fish.
I
And
love to fish.
okay.
And I got a little workshop that I mess around in, not as much as I used to,
Okay.
but I still do.
All right. Great. Well, I think we'll talk about a couple of things with you individually later. But thank you.
Sir, I'm not sure that I know what funeral or what service you're talking about. Maybe it's something somebody else had mentioned and we just didn't pick up on.
Service about Watson.
You said you attended a funeral with the sheriff's son?
Oh, yes. His boy died.
Okay.
An infant, I think, lived maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes. They had a lot of trouble with the pregnancy.
Okay. And this was something recently?
Yes, sir. I wonder, deputy probably know 5, 6 weeks ago. I'm not
Okay.
that long ago.
And he lives, you said, either next door or across the street?
He lives next door to me.
Okay. All right. When was it that you lived in Cobb County?
Okay, let me think. Had to be about 77, 78
Okay. And how long did you live there?
a year.
Okay. And you were in the retail business at that time?
Yes,
All right. And you just couldn't recall that it was Marietta? Okay. And do you know what part of Marietta?
or no.
Okay.
No, I could get that information from my wife. She'd have that.
All right. But you have in fact been back to the Atlanta area several times since you lived there.
Yes, only because my children were going to school there,
Right. Where were they going to school?
Georgia Tech.
Okay. And you mentioned difficulty with the traffic there?
Yes, sir.
You ever get off on the wrong exit down there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the right lane, you're in trouble. Best I can remember from Atlanta. I haven't been back to Atlanta and driven through Atlanta in probably 6, 7 years. Now I have gone, and I can't think of it now, you get off I-20 and it's a town where my son used to live, and I can't think of it, Cummings. Is that right? I'm not sure, I can't remember. I don't even think about Atlanta.
Cumming is north of Atlanta. Does that sound right?
It would be, yeah. It would be because I know if you wanted to go, you got off on 20, you'd see the downtown Atlanta signs, like 20 miles to downtown Atlanta. But that wasn't too bad because you stayed on I'd go to back roads, 341, 441, and then just exit off and get on I-20 and then I'm off.
Did you fill out one of the little juror slips for jury service?
You mean to have myself removed from the jury?
No, I'm talking about just to where you get the summons. Did you fill out any slip that you had to send back in
Talking about
or
that.
once you got here?
There's a copy of it if you'd like to see it.
Talking about this small little form there.
Talking about this one.
It's kind of a small form. Okay. Did you fill that out or did your wife
My
fill it out?
wife filled it out.
I'm sorry?
My wife filled it out.
Okay. I figured that was the case because her birth date showed up on there and yours did not. So I figured that she'd probably just filled it out for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's okay.
Okay. I can tell you her, what's the name of spouse.
Yeah.
And then she put her age of spouse. Okay.
I'm looking at the line right above that. It was blank, and I didn't know if you had intentionally left it blank.
No, sir. She just didn't fill it in. I can give it to you.
Okay. I'm not going to make you tell us your date of birth, but I didn't know if perhaps you were aware that at a certain age, at 70, you can request not to serve.
Well, sir, I understand that. And I also found out once you got hit with a summons that you better get down there and sign up so they don't get you again, but you're obligated. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. So you are not asking to be removed for age purposes?
For age reasons, no, sir. Now, if you're asking me if I would rather not serve on a jury, I'll tell you I'd rather not serve on the jury. But I will do what's required.
Okay. You'd rather not serve, but you don't want to request to be excused. You don't want to exercise that right.
Well, like I said, I was instructed I didn't have that right once I was summoned.
Okay. Who told you that?
Well, okay, I did not get that directly from the court. I got it through the fact that my wife was on summons to 6-month court, Lord, I'm trying to think of it myself, grand jury.
Grand jury.
Okay, and she was over 70, and she called them, they said, hey, you should have signed up. You can sign yourself up for the next time. So she has, I haven't yet, but
Okay.
I will.
All right, well, if you had the opportunity to exercise that right today and fill out one of those forms, would you like to do that, to ask to be excused? Because you have that right under the law.
Yes, sir.
Okay? I'll speak with the jury administrator about that for you and get you one of those forms, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? 70 or older here? All right, no? Okay. Dropping like flies. Okay, juror number 10. How are you?
Okay.
All right. It's okay. All right, you work as a legal clerk at RGL. How long have you worked there?
The 25th of this month will be 16 years.
Okay. And is that basically, have you worked in that capacity basically most of your professional career?
Before that, I worked at Babcock Furniture for 8.5 years.
Okay.
Before that, I worked at Rogers Drugs for 4.5 years.
Okay. In your current job as a legal clerk, kind of what's your day-to-day duties?
We have to do with preparing suits and garnishments
Okay.
and making sure everything is right before it's sent to the court.
Okay. Gotcha. And your husband works at Georgia Pacific?
He does.
And what does he do there?
He works in the powerhouse.
Okay. And how long has he worked there?
31 years.
All right. Okay. Now you do you supervise people in your current job?
No, I don't.
Okay. Have you before?
I have when I worked at the Dollar Tree. Did I say the Dollar Tree on there? Okay,
No.
well, there was a Dollar Tree in between there.
Okay.
And I was assistant manager there.
Okay. And as assistant manager, in addition to supervising, could you hire and fire?
Yes, I did.
You've known somebody who's been in the military before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about that.
My daddy was in the Air Force,
Mhm.
and I have several uncles that were in the, two were in the Navy, and one was in the Air Force,
Mhm.
and then my brother-in-law was in the Army.
Okay. All right, and you've known somebody that's got some type of legal training, obviously with the work you do, I assume? Is that an attorney you work with?
Yes.
Okay. And is that attorney ever handled criminal law or anything like that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. I believe you also stated that you know people who work in the medical field.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
My aunt is an RN, and my cousin and her daughter are both RNs.
Great. Now, you've actually served on a jury before?
I have.
Okay. How many times?
I was dismissed before I ever got here first time,
Mhm.
and the second time I made it up to this box,
Right.
and then they dismissed it.
Okay. So you've never actually had to sit and listen to the evidence or anything? All right. Now, you're somebody, you do not deal with social media?
I text,
Okay.
and I do have Google on my phone.
Google, so you can like Google stuff and look it up on the internet.
Every now and then, but I'm not really into all that. That's my kids' thing.
Okay. Are you on Facebook at all? Okay. I'm gonna read off all this stuff again and see if you have ever heard of it or used it. Instagram.
I've heard of it, but I don't use it.
Okay. YouTube.
I've heard of it, but I don't use it.
Okay. I'm just going to read through a list, and you tell me after I'm done if you've heard of any, or actually if you've used any of these. Okay. Craigslist, Twitter, Reddit, Kick, Backpage, Whisper, Scout, and Snapchat.
No, sir.
Okay. That's what I figured. That's why I went down that way. All right. I believe you watch some legal TV shows.
I do.
Tell me, what do you watch?
I watch Law and Order. And the reason I watch that is on while I'm trying to get ready for work.
Okay. Which one is it? There's about 17 of them. So.
It's the one that comes on from 5 to 6. It's just a regular Law and Order.
Okay. A normal one, I guess.
Normal
Yeah.
one, I guess.
All right. Any other shows like that?
I've watched Criminal Minds, some. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't seem to have a lot of time for that.
Okay. I believe you stated you've either watched or listened to some type of documentary or pseudo-documentary of illegal on legal issues.
Like the O.J. Simpson thing and the one with the little baby. In Orlando, they had the trial in Orlando.
Oh, the Casey Anthony?
That's it.
Okay.
Can't remember
Okay, you've actually had to care for somebody who's been sick or disabled?
Yes, sir. Both of my in-laws, my mother-in-law had a brain aneurysm in '99.
Yes, ma'am.
And she just passed away a year ago.
Okay,
And then my father-in-law had cancer for 5 years.
okay.
And then my dad was sick too, and I helped with him.
I believe you've known somebody who's been investigated or something regarding an issue of child abuse or neglect or something like that?
My, well, it's now my daughter's husband now, sorry, I didn't think
Yes.
that.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
His daughter had an issue with him,
Mhm.
but it was just her being her.
Okay. And so something was reported to DFACS and
It was.
it didn't go anywhere?
But it didn't go anywhere.
Okay. You've known somebody who's had to deal with the sudden death of a child before?
I did.
Okay, tell me about that.
Her daughter was was on an ATV.
Whose daughter? Is this a friend? I'm sorry.
A friend of mine.
Okay.
She was my neighbor for several years, and then after we moved, she actually came to work where I'm at now. So
Okay.
we kept in touch. But
Mhm.
her daughter was 14, and she did not have a helmet on, and she ran into a tree.
I'm sorry to hear that. You actually, you have family in Cobb?
I'm like everybody else, I'm not sure if it's called.
Okay.
My cousin, who is a nurse, they live in Kennesaw,
That's in Cobb.
okay? And then her brother, he lives in Ackworth.
And that's also in Kennesaw. Okay. Okay, I mean, in Cobb County, not in Kennesaw. That's also in Cobb County. Do you know what hospital your cousin works at?
I do not.
Okay. And do you know what type of work she does? Like she
She
specialized?
works in a doctor's office.
Okay.
I'm not sure right now, but I'm not sure about her daughter.
Okay. All right. And I know you've transported children before, and you've got, let's see, 3 grandchildren?
I do.
15, 5, and 9. Are they all local or?
Well, the 15-year-old is actually my
Yes.
granddaughter,
Mhm.
and my daughter recently got married last year. But before that, when she was divorcing her husband,
Mhm.
they lived with us for 3 years.
Okay. Okay. And the 5 and 9-year-old, are they local?
They are.
Okay. And do you transport them to daycare or anything like that? Okay. And how often?
Whenever I was needed to, they lived with us, so if
Okay.
something happened and we had one child going to this school and another child going to that school.
Yes.
We had that going on, so.
I understand. So it wasn't like you just had one place to go. It was, you were going back and forth. And okay. All right. I think there are a couple other things we're going to ask you a little bit later. I appreciate it.
Good morning. You said you followed the O.J. Simpson and Casey Anthony case. When we're talking about the O.J. Simpson case, are you talking about 22 years ago, or the recent?
I didn't look at that one.
Did not see that. Okay. And then the case in Florida was a couple of years ago, and you watched coverage of that,
I watched some of that, yes, sir.
right? Followed it on the news, read about it or whatnot?
Yes, sir.
Right. Did you ever watch any court proceedings that were streamed online?
No, because I don't do online.
Okay.
If it didn't come on the TV, I didn't see it.
Did you see any court proceedings on TV that you
We
can?
did.
Okay.
We were actually on vacation in Orlando at the time that
Oh,
was
really?
going on, so
Okay.
that's all that was on the TV.
You couldn't get away from it. All right. After the case, did you ever do any follow-up research on your own? Did you ever look anything up on the internet that had to do with the case?
No, sir.
Did you ever follow up on the attorneys involved in the case?
No, sir.
Okay. Once you stopped seeing it on TV, you didn't have any more interest in it. Is that fair to say?
I was done.
Okay. All right. Your employer, RGL Associates. I don't know what that is or what they do.
It's a billing and accounts receivable or
Okay.
collection agency, so if you want to call it, that's a collection agency.
Okay.
we have a billing department also.
It is not a law practice? Okay. Your friend who lost a daughter, I did not catch how long ago that was.
I really don't, it's been, I would say it's been over 10 years.
Okay. And did you have the ability to be there for her to help her after this happened?
I saw her a little later. I didn't know about it exactly at the time it happened, but I saw her 2 or 3 weeks later. Because I get a paper, but I don't read it. So.
Okay. So it's fair to say y'all weren't close friends. She wasn't calling you.
No, she wasn't calling me.
Right. So
She wasn't calling me.
2 or 3 weeks later, you wouldn't have even been in a position to go to the funeral then.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. You had a couple answers. We'll follow up in a few minutes. Thank you. All right. Juror 11. Okay. You sell window treatments?
No, I install.
Install, I'm sorry. Sorry. How long have you worked in that field? 15 years. Is that majority of your professional career you've done that type of work, or have you done something else too?
I was commercial fishing before that.
Okay. Was that here out of Brunswick?
Yes.
Okay. You from Brunswick?
Yes.
Okay. And your spouse works at Waffle House, correct? All right. All right. You know somebody who's been in the military before?
My dad was a Marine.
All right. And y'all attend church somewhere here in the Brunswick area, correct?
Correct.
And where do y'all go?
George Baptist.
Okay, I think you're another juror. You don't follow social media or get into all that? Okay, do you text message? Okay. Okay, with social media, you know all that list of stuff I read out earlier?
YouTube,
YouTube? Okay. And what do you use YouTube for?
just how-tos.
Okay. Now, you actually do watch some kind of legal TV shows or something like that, correct?
I watch Joe Kendo.
Joe Kendall. Okay. All right. You given a statement to the police before about some incident or something? Tell me about that.
I was an eyewitness to a store robbery.
Wow. Do you know if they ever caught the people who did it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. I believe you stated you've known somebody who's been arrested before.
All his daughter.
Okay. I don't want to pry too much, but
Civil battery.
simple battery. Okay. Was it like? Was it something that happened inside the home or something outside the home with like a? I don't want to try to guess what happened, but.
I just knew the guy that she was living with, an ex-boyfriend showed up and
Okay.
things got started. They took both of them.
Okay. And do you know enough about it to have an opinion as to whether she was treated fairly or not? Okay. I believe you stated that you've known somebody who suffered the sudden death of a child?
My sister-in-law.
Okay.
lost her oldest son.
I'm sorry to hear that. How old was he?
He was 18.
And just, how did he pass?
Car accident.
Okay. I believe you stated that you know somebody who's done online dating or met somebody they've been in a relationship before on the computer.
For his daughter again.
Okay. Okay. You know, I don't have any other questions for you right now. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Thank you. morning. All right. So you, most of your career you worked as a commercial fisherman?
Window treatments. Longer than
Okay. How long have you been doing this work?
Which one?
Window treatments?
15 years.
Okay. All right. Your daughter, want to follow up on that. You say that she was arrested for simple battery. Was apparently some sort of domestic situation. Was she living here in the area when she was arrested?
Yes.
You said they were both arrested, meaning she and the boyfriend, I guess,
Ex.
ex-boyfriend. All right. Did you help her out with that?
No.
Okay. Did she have to get a lawyer?
I believe she had a public defender.
Okay. And were y'all estranged at the time, or did she ask for help?
No, she asked for help.
Okay.
I ended up bonding her out.
Okay. So you did help her to some extent. You bonded her out. Okay. Did y'all have a discussion about whether or not you could help her hire an attorney? Did not? She didn't ask for help? Okay. Are y'all close?
Yeah. She lives with us now.
Okay. How long ago did this happen?
Last year.
Okay, just a year ago? Did you ever go to court with her?
No.
Did she have a trial?
No.
Is her case completed? Is it over, or is it still pending?
I think it's still there.
Okay, so she has not gone to trial yet?
I don't think so.
Your grandkids are 6 and 8, right?
Yes, sir.
Do they both live with you?
No, sir.
Does either one of them live with you?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So she lives with you, but she doesn't have kids,
Right, she doesn't have, that's the deal.
right?
Right.
And this is the same daughter that you said you believe did online dating?
I think she's met someone one time.
Okay. And you know this because she told you?
Yeah.
Okay.
She told my wife, and my wife dismissed it.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Last but not least, Juror 12, you answered a lot of questions when we asked them. Why? I'm just kidding. Actually, a lot of them we're going to be taking up alone in private anyway, so this won't take that long because we're going to kind of cut to the chase through some of this stuff, and then we'll take the other stuff up in a bit, okay? All right. You're CFO, CPA. Have you always worked in that business, that profession, as a CPA or in finance?
Yes, I've been in the banking profession for 16 years.
Okay.
Before that, I was a public accountant for about 7 years.
Okay, and you know somebody who's a prosecutor, and you also know somebody who's a defense attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about first, who do you know that's a prosecutor?
Well, he was a prosecutor, he was a district attorney.
Okay.
In Hodges.
Hodges, yeah. And how do you know Ken?
I'm from Albany,
Okay.
and I knew him a long time.
All right. How long have you been, has it been since you left Albany?
16 years.
Okay. All right. So you probably don't know Chris Cahilas, do you?
I know who he is. I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, I'm sorry. All right. How about any defense attorneys? You know somebody, I guess Ken actually practices criminal law now, some, but,
Right.
okay.
I've had the fortune of knowing many attorneys in professional business,
Okay.
in the banking business, clients, customers, that provide service for banks.
Okay. I guess to kind of cut to the chase on all that, any of those relationships that would impact your ability to be fair to both sides in this case?
That's
And when you stated that you've know people who work in the court system, is it those attorneys or some other people too?
those attorneys. I'm also, I know Judge Bart Altman.
You stated you've also known some folks who work in law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, is that here in Glenn County or elsewhere?
Several of them work at Legacy,
Okay.
or law enforcement, U.S. Marshals, Capitol Police, IRS. A good friend of mine is a GBI agent.
And do you know most of these people just from social settings as opposed to work, or do they actually investigate some things that go on with the bank sometimes too?
That's social.
Okay. All right. It's kind of my same, I guess, in the same topic about military, people that you know who've been in the military.
I've got family that served, that currently serve.
Okay. You've been on a jury before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that here in Glenn County?
No, sir.
Okay. Where, back in Doherty?
No, it was in Lowndes County.
Lowndes. Okay. And about how long ago?
It was probably between 5 and 10 years ago. I moved over here 5 years ago.
Okay. And do you remember if it was a criminal or civil case?
It was a criminal case.
And what was the case about? What were the charges, if you remember?
It involved drug trafficking.
Without telling me what your verdict was, were you able to reach a verdict?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and were you the foreperson?
Yes, sir.
You also attend church here in the area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what church do you go to?
I'm a member at Wesley United Methodist.
All right. And you stated you text, and then you also use other applications to message on your cell phone?
Yes, Facebook Messenger.
Yes, sir.
The only other one.
Okay. As far as social media, that list I read, let me just go through it real quick. Do you use Facebook in addition to Messenger, regular old Facebook?
Facebook's the only other one, but most of those other applications you mentioned, I've never heard of until yesterday.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you watch some legal TV shows?
Yes, sir. I've watched Law and Order, NCIS, not frequent or regular.
Okay. And have you ever watched a documentary or a docudrama or something about a criminal case, or listened to a podcast about one?
Yeah. My wife was watching something Sunday night, actually, about the John Benet Ramsey
Yes, sir.
case, but I'm not really paying much attention to it.
Okay. And you volunteered in the past with children?
Yes, sir.
Is that with your own kids?
Yes, I'm Scoutmaster for a Boy Scout troop on the island.
Okay.
And we have about 30 scouts, 35 scouts. And in the past, I've coached baseball, football for my kids.
Okay.
Volunteered Sunday school teacher.
Now, I believe you've actually had to testify before in a court proceeding or something. Is that as a part of your job, having to do that, or?
It was.
Okay.
I was engaged to be an expert witness in the case.
All right. Okay. Let's see. I think pretty much the rest of the stuff we can talk about in private. When you have free time, if you have any, what do you like to do?
It's mostly centered around my kids.
Okay.
And activities that they're involved in. Watch college football.
All right. Are you Bulldogs fan?
I am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right there at the end, I didn't catch what you said. You were engaged as an expert witness in what context?
Yes, sir. There was a fraud case, and there was a court-appointed receiver in the case, and I was engaged to help the receiver trace the flow of funds in the fraud case. And I was a witness in that case, which was in a superior court. And then there was also a federal case, and the U.S. attorney engaged me to be an expert witness in that trial as well.
All right, the case in Superior Court, what county was that in? Tift County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was it Ken Hodges' firm that hired you for that?
No, sir.
Okay.
It was a law firm out of Macon, called Law, Darling and Meyer.
All right. And essentially you were a financial expert?
Yes, sir.
You were asked to review documents or records and then offer an opinion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Pretty much. It was a Ponzi scheme,
Okay.
and involved many investors and a lot of money.
Is that the first time that you'd ever been called upon to serve in that capacity?
Yes, sir.
Do you know how they found you or got to you to do that?
At the time, I was working for a public accounting firm,
Okay.
and the initial engagement was technically with the firm that I worked for.
All right.
And I had done some smaller investigations for customers or clients with the firm. And when that engagement came up, they assigned it to me.
Okay. And then the federal case was after that?
The federal case was after that, and I was engaged individually.
By the U.S. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
What district?
Middle District.
Was it the same kind of subject matter?
Yes, sir.
Ponzi scheme?
It was the same case.
Oh, same case. So the case started in Superior Court and you followed it all the way to the Middle District?
Correct.
All right. Being from Albany and knowing Ken Hodges, were y'all personal friends or just, I guess, acquaintances in the community professionally?
Socially and professionally. We weren't personal friends.
Okay.
Didn't send Christmas cards to each other.
Okay. Do you still see him or have any contact with him throughout the year?
No, sir, I haven't spoken with him in 16 years.
Oh, okay. You indicated you go to Wesley United Methodist.
Yes, sir.
Did you notice some other jurors that were here the first day you came in that were members of your congregation?
No, sir.
Did not. Okay.
You're talking about when the first day last week?
That's right.
I don't recall seeing anybody, no.
Okay. We've had a couple, but we had two on the first panel that came in. Nobody came up to you Sunday at church and mentioned that they were in the jury pool as well, did they?
No, sir.
Okay. You indicated that you had done some research on the lawyers involved in this case. When did you do that?
It was actually, sorry, Your Honor, it was the judge. When I received the jury summons, it listed the judge, and I did not recognize the judge's name as being a local judge, so I Googled her name
Okay.
and determined that she was from, Cobb County.
All right. When you got your summons, you thought, that's not one of our judges.
Right.
Looked her up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's the extent of what you wanted to share with us when you answered yes to that question.
Yes, that's all of it.
Okay. Well, that's why we asked. All right, and you too indicated that you had some familiarity with hearing public service announcements, such as the Look Again campaign, or any kind of PSA reminding parents to double check their car for children.
Yes, sir. I can't recall when or any specific. I want to say I saw a news story when those came out, but I can't recall when that was.
Okay. So was it a public service announcement, do you think, or was it an account of an event that had happened, a story of a child left in a car?
I can't recall.
That's okay. But you think it's something you heard on TV?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so what products have you heard of or are you familiar with to help prevent parents from accidentally leaving a child in a car?
Well, the only thing I'm aware of is there's, I guess with new vehicles, there's now some sort of an alert or warning signal or something that either you can have added or use. My stepmother was telling me about it.
Your stepmother was telling you about it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Basically something that General Motors or one of the auto manufacturers is providing as an option, as a safety or security option that you can get.
Yes, sir. She has an Acadia, and I guess it either came with it or was an option that came with it.
Oh, it's on the vehicle she has now?
I believe so.
Did she show you how it works?
No, sir.
All right. Well, if it's optional, do you know why she went with that option? Does she regularly transport grandchildren?
Judge, I'm going to object to this at this point. I don't believe this is relevant to the subject matter we're trying to get at.
We've been asking, this was a general question that I'm following up on, and we've been asking about this for over a week.
Judge, nobody's asked about somebody else and why they decided on an option on a car yet.
I'm allowed over objection.
Do you know?
No, sir.
Okay. You or your spouse, one, and had to hire an attorney previously? Is that something you can tell us about?
Personally or professional?
Well, personally.
Sure. It was me. My previous employer was a bank that didn't survive the Great Recession,
Okay.
and I was an executive officer of that bank. And as a result of that closure, there was a need to engage an attorney to represent them.
All right. I may follow up with that in a few minutes. That's all I'm asking about right now. Thank you.
We'll take a morning recess. Let's see, we can come back at 10 till 11. Keep an open mind. Do not discuss this matter with each other. If you well, you don't have your phones or anything. You can't do anything. So don't do anything. It's very simple. You'll have a good, nice break and enjoy each other's company.
Judge, sorry. 10 till 11, that's 3 minutes from now. Yes.
Not by my watch. Okay, well, I'll fix my watch.
Sorry.
That's okay. But it's Mr. Evans' duty to do this, not yours,
He's
Mr.
sleeping over here,
Boring.
Judge, sorry.
Well, my watch is off. And I can't, that one doesn't look right to me. So let's say 10 after. And I will correct my timepiece, which is very old school.
That's for the jury, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chestnut. We're in recess. you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning again. All right. Actually, we just have a couple of questions to talk to you, a couple of issues to talk to you about. It appears from speaking with you generally, you hadn't formed or expressed any opinions in the case. So now what we're going to do is just ask you a little bit about, I know you, like many people, may have heard about this case from either the media or family or friends or something like that. Just tell us, where do you think you've heard about the case?
At work.
Okay. Okay. Now, have you ever watched any news reports about it, or read any articles about the case or anything like that? Okay. And at work, is this just like water cooler talk, people talking about the case and things like that?
Yeah, break room, have you heard about such and such, that kind of thing.
And was this something more like back when it happened, or something when the case, when it started being printed in the media, it was going to be moved here?
Recently.
Okay. So the first you've heard about it is recently?
Yes.
Okay. And recently, from talking with people at the water cooler and things like that, or just around work, have you learned any facts about the case?
No.
Okay. What generally do you even think that you know right now?
Basically, all that I think I know is that I heard that there was a small child involved, that the child was left in a hot vehicle, while the person was inside sexting.
Okay.
Or doing something, online or something of that nature.
Okay. And have you heard any other facts other than that?
No.
Okay. Now, understand that, gosh, I was going to say sometimes, the media gets wrong, and I guess you were talking about sometimes, I think, people talk, and, if you're getting stuff third hand, that may not be actually what happened.
Exactly.
Okay. So just asking you, if you were selected as a juror, would you be able to put that, that talk from your coworkers aside and base your verdict solely on what comes out in the courtroom and the law from the judge?
As a nurse, we're HIPAA is a real big,
Yes, sir.
big thing that we have to adhere to. So
Yes, sir.
that applies a lot in that area. But also, I had a friend, not a friend, but an associate that I was talking to, and her initial reaction was, "I don't see how you could. It would be guilty for me right away," she says.
Yes.
But working in mental health and addiction, I understand that there's a lot of precipitating factors. There's a lot of background. There's a lot of history that needs to be considered before you make an opinion about somebody.
Yes, sir.
Their education level, their IQ. I mean, there's all these variations that you have to consider. So I definitely understand that, and it is a process.
Okay. And like you're saying, the importance of getting the history. If the judge tells you the law that you're to apply is to considering testimony of witnesses and things like that, would you be able to do that and apply the judge's law and then just the evidence and not all the stuff you heard elsewhere?
Definitely. I can definitely be objective.
Okay.
It's a lot easier that way.
Okay, great. And I think there's just one other question. I think you said maybe you heard an opinion from a family or some member, or maybe it was a friend. Was it what you were already talking about?
Basically, yeah, just that they don't understand how, basically that it would be guilty right off the rip because of the child being left in the car, that there's no reason why a child should be left in a hot car type thing.
Right. But you realize those are their opinions, and you're going to follow what's in here.
Exactly.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what you heard was very little, and it was primarily came from just coworkers talking,
Just random.
and it had to have been something within the last couple of months after the case was moved down here.
Well, it was actually when I received the summons because I was like, jury duty, and then it was like, well, what case is it? It's got to be this case or it's got to be that case. And I wasn't aware about it. I hadn't even heard about it until then.
Okay, and I mean, all you're really telling us is that you had at least one coworker that expressed an opinion that she didn't even need to hear any evidence. As far as she's concerned, it's guilty no matter what.
Right.
Okay, and I appreciate you letting us know that. That's why we're asking you this stuff in private. If I understand correctly, you're telling us you know better than that.
Yes.
You don't form an opinion based on what somebody else says before you've heard any evidence. Okay. So is it fair to say then that if selected as a juror, you would be willing to wait until you heard all the evidence before making a decision
Most definitely.
from both sides?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll send you back to the, no, I'm gonna have you come back on October the 3rd at 9 a.m. In the meantime, remember what I've directed you to. Keep an open mind. Don't discuss this matter with anyone or let anyone speak with you about the case, including other jurors. No contact with attorneys, parties, or witnesses to the case. Insulate yourself completely from anything to do with this case, including co-workers expressing opinions. You've just got to go, no, 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 no. You know, no. You can't talk to me and I can't talk to you, okay? Thank you so much. You're excused.
October 3rd, 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Will I receive any correspondence about that, or, okay?
No, my word to your ears.
Yes, ma'am.
Okey doke.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We need juror 2. You can resume.
Thank you. And juror number 2, we just have one follow-up question or one issue to talk about. Just, you had said before that you knew somebody who had some issue involving a child who was forgotten, not in a car, but somehow in another way.
I mean, on the news, like.
Okay. All right. So you've heard about something like that in the
I know
news.
that you meant personally, like.
Okay.
I knew someone.
No. I just meant if you personally knew somebody or some situation personally where a child had been forgotten but not in a car.
My mom left me at Walmart for like 10 minutes.
Okay. So like you were at Walmart, where'd she go? Back out to the car?
I
Or?
was looking for her and then I called her and I'm like, where are you? And she's like, oh, I'm on my way home. I was like, well, you kind of forgot something.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh,
It's okay. And I assume if you had your own phone, that this was, you weren't like a little kid. This was recently or the last few years?
Recently. I was in middle school.
Okay. Did she just get busy or something and just slipped her mind?
Never asked her why she did.
She just kind of play it off when she came back to pick you up? Okay.
I didn't really talk to her about it.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not like I was there for an hour.
Right. Okay. I think that's it. And what Mr. Boring first asked you about a moment ago, you just said you'd heard stories about children left in cars?
Yeah.
All right, was this just stories that you heard on TV, you mean?
Yeah, word of mouth, news. I don't really watch the news on TV. It's more like on the phone.
Okay. And are these accounts that you saw on your phone, like little video clips from the news, or actual articles or stories?
It's articles like on my little notification bar.
Right.
From New York Times.
Oh, you read the New York Times?
Every once in a while.
Okay.
If something happens, I'll open it up.
Okay. All right. And how often or how many times do you think that you have heard some story like this come through your phone?
I can't recall the last time I did. Almost never really.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 times.
All right. Thank you.
Come back on October 3rd at 9 in the morning to the jury assembly room. Thank you.
And juror number 3, just bringing you back in for a couple of questions like we are almost everybody, based upon some of your answers. First of all, I know at the beginning of the jury selection, y'all were asked several questions and to raise your hand if you thought it applied to you. Just kind of flesh that out a little bit more. You raised your hand about whether you formed and expressed an opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant. Now, what the question is going to be, we don't come in here in a vacuum. Everybody comes in here with their life experiences, opinions, things like that. That's not some disqualifying thing. What we need to know is that anything that you've heard, things like that, can you put that aside? Or if you form some opinion about whatever issue in this case, it basically, as a juror, if you are selected, you can follow the law that the judge gives you, and that you can take and make the decision in the case only on the evidence in here that comes out in this courtroom, not any preconceived notions or opinions that you have.
I can do that.
Okay. So kind of as a starting point, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Right.
Now, the second question or second issue we want to take up with you is regarding things you may have heard either in the media, from family members, people have heard or think they've heard things about this case from different sources. Have you heard something about the case in the media before you came in here today?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Tell me just a little bit about what you've heard, either local, national media. Was it something that happened back when the incident occurred, or something recent when everything got moved to Brunswick?
Pretty much it was when it first started.
Okay.
Right. Do you want me to tell you what I heard?
Yes, I know y'all are in a different market than we have in Atlanta, so that's why we're asking. You guys may have heard something different than may have happened in the Atlanta media, or that's why we're asking. So what do you think that you know about the case, or what have you heard, as best you remember?
Okay. I remember that somebody left some child in a car and left the child in there all day in the heat. And I believe the person came back to the car or something like that, knew the child was in there, and then they said they didn't know. Something like that, and the child died, and then I'm not sure if it was, I think it was later, I heard that he was talking to underage females and having sexual, talking with them through the whatever.
All right.
Texting and sending photographs and stuff like that. So.
And is that the extent of what you think you know about the case?
Right.
Okay.
And then some about the wife, I'm not sure. They were like hiding something. I don't know if this was the one.
Okay. So
Some
you even
stuff was on the internet and they were trying to hide it and got caught, or that was later, I believe.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it. And then I didn't even know till yesterday that this was the case.
All right, and your opinion that you'd formed, have you formed a specific opinion about what crimes he is either guilty or innocent of, or anything like that?
I just know if he, I just think that the only thing I feel is leaving a child in a car by itself is very unexcusable. That's my opinion. And I don't understand the shoe thing, because if you put a shoe there, you got the damn child in there, so that would be.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, the act is, I think, is bad.
Okay, so your opinion, let me ask you this, would your opinion be toward the act of doing that, not specifically to this defendant?
Right. It don't matter who the person is.
Yes.
It's not to this person, but the act of doing it, of course.
Okay. And if you were, I'm sorry, if you were selected as a juror, would you be able to put stuff you've heard out before, whatever you think you know, put it aside and render a decision and make the state prove and make the evidence prove that these acts actually happen and that under the law, whatever we have charged has to be proven under the law?
I can do that.
Okay. And is any opinion, just going to be legalese, but is there any opinion that you hold, is it so fixed and definite that you could not render a verdict based on the evidence in the law?
I'm fine, I can.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Thank you, sir.
Bear with us another minute. Just have a seat, please. Yes, you should know by now there's always more to come, isn't there? Yeah. I'm sure that's a commonality of opinion in there.
Okay, let's start with the media exposure. If I understand correctly, you're telling us that your exposure to information started over 2 years ago when this story first was published in the news.
Correct.
Okay. And what sources of information do you believe that you were exposed to?
Television, and maybe a friend of mine who reads the newspaper at the time that was telling stories.
Okay.
Other than that, pretty much the television.
All right, let's start with television then. Is there a particular national news that you listen to at night, or is there a local news station that you get?
Fox News.
Fox News? Fox News and CNN?
Right.
All right. And so do you recall if it would have been through those sources that you heard some of this information?
Right. I was listening to it in my bedroom when I first heard it. I remember that.
Okay. And you would agree, certainly on CNN, in addition to sort of a news format, there's also a talk format where they have experts come in and give their opinions, where they have lawyers give their opinions. Do you know if you heard any of those sort of accounts?
I don't recall any of that.
You don't
Just
recall?
pretty much how it started, and then I don't listen to much of the news. I just hear from other people, and
Okay.
then just turn on the news when I can, and then later on I just heard more about it.
All right. So,
I didn't follow it, so I just heard about it.
all right, so you heard about it when it first occurred, and then you said later on you heard more about it.
Right.
And is that later on hearing more about it also information that you would have gotten from Fox News and CNN?
Pretty much.
Okay. And by later on, do you mean the week after and 2 weeks after and a month after? How much longer did you hear about the story?
However long it took for them to say, like, they found out more, like, as far as I remember, is more of the, when they found out that he was talking to other females.
Okay.
Whatever, and that was pretty much, and then I'm not sure if this is the same case with his wife trying to cover him up. I'm not really sure.
Right.
And then that was pretty much the end of it. I didn't follow up or hear anything else of it.
All right. And you indicated that you didn't read a newspaper, but you had a friend who regularly reads the newspaper. And do I take it to mean that friend conveyed some information to you that he or she had read about?
Right. He just tells me everything that's going on in the newspaper.
All right. And do you believe that's where you got some of the information that you shared with us as well?
It could have been.
Okay. All right. So if you were seeing it on the news, then Obviously, in addition to whatever you're hearing, there's images there as well. Do you remember what images that you would have been exposed to when watching this on the news?
Just his face.
Okay. And when you say his face, you talk about Ross?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you recognized Ross when you came in here the first day and saw him?
I didn't remember the face. I just remember the image.
Mhm.
I just remember the face was on the television, but I wouldn't have noticed
Okay.
till, I came in.
All right. Is that the same guy you saw on TV?
I did. That's the same guy.
Okay. And what about a picture of Cooper? Did you see an image of Cooper Harris on TV?
No, sir.
Did not.
No, sir.
All right. Did you see images of any scene with a vehicle that was roped off with crime tape?
No, sir.
You don't recall that?
No, sir.
Okay. All you saw was an image of Ross.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And then the information that you can recall at this time: left child in a car. And what about the relationship between Ross and the child left in the car? Did you know what that relationship was?
No, sir.
Okay. You didn't hear that Ross was Cooper's father?
I knew he was the father of the child.
Okay.
What the television was saying.
All right. All right. And then did you hear what time of day it was or anything that had happened during the morning?
I assume it was during a hot part of the day.
Okay. Did you hear anything about breakfast or Chick-fil-A or restaurant or anything like that?
No, I don't recall that.
All right. Did you hear anything about where he worked?
No, sir.
All right. Did you hear anything about the area of Cobb County that this
Just
occurred?
Atlanta
Just Atlanta? All right.
area.
You said you heard something about coming back to the car. What, to the best of your recollection, what did you hear about that?
I just remember something like he came back to the car and, I don't know, something. And the child was still in there and he left the child in the car still.
Okay. To the best of your recollection, when did you hear that he came back to the car?
I believe that was later, I think. I don't remember the time frame.
Okay. And if I heard you correctly, when you were speaking with Mr. Boring, you said, if I heard you correctly, came back to the car and he knew the child was there.
That's what I heard on the television.
All right. And of course, again, best of your recollection, that would have been from either on CNN or Fox News. What was conveyed, what you heard was that he came back to the car knowing that the child was there.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and then you said, I believe you said at a later time you heard that he was talking to underage females.
That was on the news.
That was on the news.
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that that was a different time frame?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sometime, and I know this has been more than 2 years ago, so sometime thereafter, weeks later or months later or something.
However, I don't know. I mean, I can't say. It might have been a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Whenever they found out.
All right. And who is they finding out?
The media or the police.
All right. And then you said something about sex and images or sex and pictures or photos. What did you hear about that?
Just like I said, on the media, he was talking and texting and sending images to females, underage females.
All right. And the time frame that you heard he was doing this. When did you hear he was doing that?
I think it was about the same time. Probably a little, obviously it was after first, time I heard about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant when during the day. What did you remember hearing reported about when he was texting or talking to people?
I think it was, from what I heard, it was during the same day that
Okay.
Scott was in the car.
All right. And then you said you heard something about his wife. To the best of your recollection, what is it you think you heard about his wife?
That she knew about what was going on, and something about they had the internet going on their computer. I think the police or whoever found some information on the computer that they were planning on doing that act with the child, and they're trying to cover it up.
All right, so you heard on either Fox News or CNN that police found something on their computer that, are you telling us that you heard that they were working together to kill their child?
Something like that.
Okay,
That's what I understood.
that's what you understood. All right. All right. Kill their child in this specific manner.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you hear about any particulars as far as what it was that the police supposedly found, like internet searches or anything like that?
Right. I believe they searched, from what I heard on the television, is that they searched what would happen to a child if it was left in the vehicle in the heat,
Okay.
and how it would.
All right. What would happen to a child if left in a vehicle in the heat? All right. And what you heard on Fox or CNN was that they both had done this search, or just that he had done the search and she knew about it?
From my understanding, they both did it.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but that's what I hear.
All right. Did you hear anything about her being arrested?
No.
Did not. Okay.
Yeah. After that, I haven't heard anything about the story.
All right. Do you remember hearing anything about private conversations between husband and wife that the police knew about?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. Do you remember hearing anything in the news about anything that that Ross told the police?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, and so when you came in here, and is that pretty much summarized to the best of your recollection, kind of at least generally what it is that you recall being exposed to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you didn't, or did you follow up on anything? I mean, did you look anything up? Did you look any stories up or fact check anything that you had heard on Fox or CNN?
As in, like the last day or two?
Anytime. Have you Googled anything to?
No, sir.
Have not. Okay. Have you seen on television or on the internet anything about prior court hearings or about this case being in court?
No, sir. I didn't even know this was in court till yesterday. I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into. So.
Okay. We kind of figured it out since then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They were pretty high profile when the news was out there, so.
Okay. I saw them. All right. So when you came in, all of these things that you're telling us about, this is all stuff that had information that had come to you before you ever got your jury summons.
Right.
Right. And it caused you to form an opinion, right?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. I mean, I know you're nervous, but I assure you that you couldn't possibly say anything to us that would offend anybody or shock anybody. Okay, so don't worry about what you say. That's why we're asking you these questions. Okay. On the first day, the judge asked if, or I guess it was yesterday, asked if anyone had formed and expressed an opinion as to the guilt or innocence of the accused. And you raised your hand, indicating that you had. Okay. So what was that opinion? Was that he was guilty or that he was not guilty?
Well, if it was the act, he would be guilty if that was proven.
Well, so you're saying if
From the media exposure that I was from, I thought, I didn't know this. I figured this case was done, but I didn't know, so I assumed he was guilty or whatever.
Mhm.
So that was, I formed an opinion that he was guilty.
all right.
From what I heard.
Listen, is this a fair statement from what you knew and heard coming into it? Did you form the opinion that he was guilty?
Right.
Okay. And so yesterday when the judge asked you if you formed and expressed an opinion as to the guilt or innocence, is it fair to say that's what you meant?
Right.
Okay. You haven't heard any evidence in the case, right?
Right.
You haven't seen any evidence?
No, sir.
Okay. So it's fair to say between yesterday when you honestly shared your opinion that you're now telling us that your opinion was that he's guilty, you haven't heard any evidence, so is it fair to say nothing's changed? That's still your opinion?
I could sit there like I told these gentlemen, I can separate, because I know, he's a human being, so he has his right to prove himself not guilty or guilty. So I can, separate myself from that.
Okay. Well, I'll get to that. And of course, knowing someone has a right is not the same thing as having an opinion as to whether or not they're guilty. So the first part of my question is, as we sit here today, is that still your opinion? Is it still your opinion that he's guilty?
No, sir. I'd have to look at the evidence.
All right. So you no longer have an opinion then?
Correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Then the question that I would need to ask you is, what has happened since the opinion you shared yesterday or that you shared today? What has happened to change your mind that, yes, I have an opinion that he's guilty, to now you don't have an opinion? What have you heard or seen, or what has occurred?
Well, that was the first question that was asked during the day, so it infuriated me to hear that. So I raised my hand because of that, guilty. And then as we left, I just figured, just thinking about it, you gotta still, prove yourself, and you gotta look at the evidence before he's guilty or not guilty.
Okay. What infuriated you?
That someone would leave a child in the car and knowing that the child was in there and needed to die.
Okay. And based on what you heard in the media, do you believe that that's what happened?
I have to find out.
Okay. Do you want to serve on this jury?
Not necessarily.
All right. All right, Mr. Boring asked about court-martial cases. You were not court-martialed when you were in the military, were you?
No, sir.
All right. But were you charged with a crime?
No, sir.
Were you discharged in 1988?
Yes, sir, and then I went back in the military. I got discharged in 2011.
Okay. You did 2 stints?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Did you have an administrative discharge of a charge in 1988?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been charged or accused with extortion?
Yes, I have. I believe if that's the case, I did not go to court for that.
Okay.
So I don't even know how that happened.
All right. Well, when you say you don't know how that happened, let me ask you this. If you were in the Army in 1988, were you at any time arrested for extortion?
No, sir.
Okay. So you were never, you never went through any sort of formal administrative proceeding? Were you ever taken into custody and handcuffed or booked or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you have any idea why your criminal history might reflect an extortion that was discharged in 1988?
I went back to Germany, and these Americans, I was at a bar, and these Americans wanted to fight, so they jumped on me for some reason, and I was at concussion, and basically, I just said if they would do like a class to help their alcoholism, that I would drop charges, and they, maybe help pay for the medical bill. And that's what I told the lieutenant. I can't remember his name.
Okay.
And the next thing I know, I did, somebody did a background on me, and they, the same thing, it was extortion. I don't even know. I mean, I didn't go to court, I wasn't handcuffed, anything, so.
Okay. You think it's just a mistake? You didn't receive any sort of paperwork indicating that you had a charge?
No, sir.
You didn't have to go through any sort of administrative proceeding?
No, sir.
Okay. At the time of discharge, do you know that if there was anything in any documentation in your file explaining the extortion notation?
No, sir. So you would be the second person that said something like that. I mean, the military, when I went back, they didn't say anything, so.
All right. If in fact your NCIC indicated an arrest date of September the 16th, 1988, are you telling us that that is false?
I would believe so.
You were not arrested on September the 16th, 1988.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Do you believe that is the date of the bar fight or whatever it is you're telling us about?
That'd be about right. So I was out. I was supposed to get out now like in October, and I saved up all my leave time, and I got, took a vacation for a month in Germany. Before I got out.
Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions.
Just a couple of questions, Judge. Sir, your had you thought about this case since you first heard about it a couple of years ago, or was this the first time you thought about it when you actually walked in?
First time I thought about it.
Okay. Now, just following up that last line of questioning, is it possible that this was something that was actually a Chapter 10 separation or like a memorandum of reprimand? Do those sound like things you've heard of before?
No.
Okay.
I didn't go through any proceeding of any kind.
And do you know, is it something that would maybe been in a file that you didn't even know about? Do you have any clue?
I have no clue how that got in there.
Okay. You remember there was some incident, but you don't know exactly what happened with it, but you know for sure you got back in the military. You weren't ever booked or fingerprinted or anything like that? Okay. And do you have any idea what the military may have been submitted? Do you even know how the military works when they report things to a criminal history or GCIC? Any clue?
I didn't. No, sir. I've not dealt with this before.
Okay. All right. Just a second. That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Anything further? I'm going to excuse you. Come back October 3rd at 9 a.m. Thank you, sir. We'll see you then. Juror number 9 a.m. Juror 4. Juror 4, when you're ready. Just a minute, Mr. Boring. Mr. Sharon. Send the rest of them to lunch until 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, Juror 4. Actually, just one topic to follow up on. It's the only thing you'd raise your hand on about we needed to talk to you. Just about where you've heard about the case. I know people have heard varied things about it. Some people maybe back when it happened. Other people, just locally when people got their jury summons and figured out something was coming here to Brunswick. Generally, what have you learned about this case, and where did you hear about it?
When it happened a couple of years ago, just what it was in the paper then or
Okay.
on the news, and a couple of years ago, and then more, just when I got my jury summons. In fact, I didn't even think this was the case when I was coming in the door.
Okay.
Last week.
Yes, ma'am. So
Not until I got in line.
Right. Okay. So between that time that you'd heard about it initially and the time you were walking in the courthouse, had you really even thought about this case?
No.
Okay. And just tell us a little bit about, do you remember what you heard in the news? And was this something like a local news you just saw a blurb of, or was this something more in depth?
I don't even remember. It was more about just the blurb of what happened.
Okay. And what, as far as you understand, what did you understand had happened?
The child was left in the car.
Okay. Do you remember any other details whatsoever other than a child being left in the car about what had happened that day, what was going on, what anybody was doing in particular, anything like that? Okay. Do you remember specifically any locations involved in the case?
It was in Atlanta.
Okay. I don't want to make assumptions, but I just want to make sure. That minimal amount that you've heard, would you have any problem putting that aside and basing a decision in this case if you are a juror based solely on the evidence in the courtroom and the law the judge gives? Would you have any problem doing that?
No.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Okay, the media exposure that you had, was this primarily just TV? Yeah.
Probably. I mean, it's been so long. It's been 2 years. There may have been a blurb written up in the Brunswick paper, but that would have been it.
Okay. Because the way Mr. Boring phrased the question, you indicated that, or you agreed that basically what you heard was that a child was left in a car. Would you have any way of knowing this case was any different than any other reports of when a child's left in a car?
No.
Okay. No other details other than the fact that it was in Atlanta?
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated nothing else about the specific locations. Do you remember anything about a restaurant or a place of business?
No.
Okay. What about if there was a familial relationship between the child and the person who left the child in a car?
That it was the father.
Okay. So that's a little bit of information you knew, that it was the father, okay? And do you remember seeing any, as it was on the news, seeing any images of either an individual or a child or a scene or a vehicle?
No, I don't remember any of that.
Okay. All right, and so then when the story began to reappear in, I guess locally, in the Brunswick paper, or the Jacksonville paper, did you recall what it was about?
Just that little bit I just told you, nothing in detail.
Okay, and you haven't Googled or followed up or done any research on this? Okay. Or any other case like this?
No.
Now, we've questioned you a little bit over 2 days, and you've given us a lot of information, some personal information. Is there anything that we haven't asked you about, or anything that you think that we need to know in determining whether or not you might be an appropriate juror for this case?
No, I did say that I had, one thing that has bothered me, I think I told you I was on the grand jury for a year, and my husband corrected me and said I was on it for 6 months, but it's only for 6 months.
Okay.
However, it still felt like a year.
Okay.
Other than that, I can't think of anything.
All right. So your husband is a details person in addition to you?
Not probably as much as I am, but that was his job at the time, so.
Okay.
You know a little more about that than I do.
He knows what the terms of court are here. Okay. You think you'd be able to wait until the end of the trial, until you heard all of the evidence before making a decision?
Yeah.
Okay. You think you could give both sides a fair trial?
I'm telling the truth, yeah.
Thank you.
Position? Yep. Nothing else, Judge.
I'm going to excuse you. Please return October 3rd at 9 a.m. Keep an open mind, no discussion. Don't allow yourself to have any exposure to any information. Thank you. All right, it's a good time for a lunch recess. We'll break until 1:15.